post-traumatic stress disorder is definitely a huge asset for any paranormal team because some clients have developed PTSD from both paranormal and non-paranormal events, uh, which should be worked on if applicable. Our society has a resident psychotherapist who understands the paranormal events can and do happen, so there's no judgment factor many people feel from therapists in general. Plus, a psychologist or psychotherapist can also identify other mental stressors or disorders which may be present. This is always a perspective worth noting, coming from the right person or a collective body. If that luxury applied academics is not present. Unfortunately, most teams don't have a mental health professional, not because they don't want that resource, but because it's simply unavailable. This isn't absolutely necessary to help a family, however. Some folks are just more open or sensitive to the vibrations or manifestations that others don't seem to pick up on. So even if the paranormal activity can be alleviated in their environment, they may experience activity at other locations or attract new attention while out and about. For these clients, learning how to deal with this ability is imperative. They already know they have paranormal activity. They ultimately need to learn how to deal with it on their own in case everyone they ask can't prevent any future interactions. The other thing we encourage is for the clients to actively make efforts to plug into God and the greater good on a regular basis and to refrain from sinning. This is referred to as strengthening, as maintaining or wearing your spiritual armor. That way, when the clients call on God, they feel their connection much stronger, which in turn distracts evil from feeding on the fear, because the fear is replaced with love, which is a fantastic high vibration like no other. So if the crossovers, liberations, cleansings, smudgings, or deliverances didn't work, which at times does happen, then at least you have provided some light of certainty, which penetrated the darkness of unknowing that they first approached you with, that darkness which was derived from fear and uncertainty. So they can also decide whether they should stay or go, making a much more informed decision at that point. Sometimes the wisest decision, assuming all other avenues has been assessed and tried, even repeatedly. Each case is unique. Putting some energy into alleviating the fear factor is one thing which can go a long way. And it's wonderful to see that when that end is achieved. So don't be averse to setting up some protocols within your team to promote that end. It's an awesome gift to alleviate someone else's fear. If a little education can go a long way, think how much more a lot can do. The answer to that are wonders. Peace and blessings. So that was an article that Jennifer and I wrote concerning dealing with fear, just the fear factor. Because, like as the article said, no team can guarantee that they can come in and alleviate and stop a haunting. I honestly, so that being the case, you still want to be able to help, if that's going to be the case. And the best way you could do that is to help alleviate that fear factor so they can at least perceive it differently. I guess, Kat or Jennifer, do you guys have any thoughts that you'd like to add?
I would like to say that one of the things that I find alarming as an investigator going into a home is if they have had someone else in ahead of them or ahead of us and they've been told that there is a demon.
Right.
Because there's nothing that we can say when we get in there to convince them otherwise, because the fear and the idea has already been planted. It's very difficult to be able to go further and, you can smudge, you can sage, I like to use frankincense and myrrh as a combination if I feel that there's a particularly strong spirit involved.
We do too.
It's just, it soothes and calms everything. And I feel that it's a much stronger much stronger smudge for that application. But it's so difficult to cope with somebody who has had another person say, "Oh no, this is most definitely a demon, and there's really nothing that we can help you with unless you get a demonologist. Perhaps one of the local priests can help you." And I'm just like, it's not demonic. This is not a demon. This is a human spirit. And they'll never hear anything of it. And I've had to reach out to clergy to come in and say, we're going to go ahead and bless your home. And most people are okay with the priest's blessing. But I've had people that you just could not talk out of the fact that they need a full-blown, exorcism. And how would y'all deal with that? What do y'all do in those situations when that fear is uncontrollable?
We do get that, and we'll have people contact us.
Because Jennifer's a demonologist, though, too.
Oh yeah, and Jennifer gets stuff on a daily basis that she addresses, and it's a lot of these people will contact, and say, "I have a demon," and a lot of times they're not saying the things that we look for in a demonic haunting. So dealing with a client, if we have a situation where we're not seeing the things on the checklist we need to see to determine it to be within the 10% of most violent or hauntings, because that's really the best. That's the way most people assess demonic hauntings, is by the level of violence and other things too. Mm-hmm. But if someone calls us and they say they have a demon terrorizing them, but they're only telling us the things that we would hear in a human haunting. I hear the door handles rattling. I can hear somebody walking. I can hear people talking, but I can't make out what they're saying. Little things that we hear on the average haunting. Then we have to explain to them and say, well, here's the criteria that we go by. This is the criteria that Jennifer's looking at to determine if you have a demonic haunt or not. And if it's not there, it's okay to be relieved that it's not as bad as other. Because it can always get worse. Hopefully, you can undo some of the damage that's been done by whoever suggested that they had, and that doesn't mean that they're not susceptible to demons or demonic. Especially if they're convinced of it, and especially, let's say, if they're not practicing, if they don't have a moral base.
Yes.
Okay? So, them kind of things can invite attention.
Right.
We'll just say.
Well, there's so many things that factor into this too. You have to go look at when you talk to them, and one of the first things I always ask them, as far as the invitation aspect of it goes, when did you notice stuff going on?
Right.
Did you or somebody, for instance, or for example, use a Ouija board or do some kind of an occult ritual, or did something to catch that particular demonic entity's attention? Because a lot of times, and maybe they don't even realize it, that they have maybe done something that triggered this activity. And it's like,
I do know. I agree.
And that was like, kind of was saying, at the same time, we have a checklist that we go by. We will literally sit there. I get contact from people on a daily basis. And the first two lines I hear from them are, help me, I have a demon. So then the both of us will sit there and I'll ask questions. I'll start and say, what is your denomination? What faith are you? Do you have a religion? I'll cover the aspect of, Are there any drugs or any alcohol abuse in the home? Are there any family members that may have mental health issues? And then we'll go from there. We'll ask questions of like, okay, well, tell me your activity, like, a list that Kevin just said as far as the activity, and I'll be like, okay, this is what we are covering on our end from a demonic checklist, because you do get that with demonic activity, but like Kevin said, it's way more nastier and it's way more violent. And if we can't help people that are not in our area through networking, we'll contact others and provide them with resources and articles and research for them to do. We'll recommend prayers. We'll recommend that they have their homes blessed and each other blessed and their vehicles blessed. We'll recommend, burning the frankincense and myrrh, playing prayers around the house, like the Rosary, the Lord's Prayer, St. Michael prayer. We'll even take the steps to send them out St. Benedict and St. Michael medals. And we'll constantly keep in contact with them throughout the whole entire process. This way they know that they're not alone and that we don't think they're crazy and that we want to help them.
At least until they can find help.
At least until they can find help.
Right.
And that's something that, when we come back from our next break, and we take a break in a couple minutes, when we come back, the other article we could read is on finding a good and respectable demonologist. Not all, and that's the thing, they say someone who's truly possessed will not seek out an exorcist. And like we said, like the 10% of the most violent and disturbing cases we consider demonic. Of them, probably 13 of the 15, or let's say 8 of the 10% is home infestation cases, where it hasn't turned into a full-blown possession yet. Yeah. But the other 2% is the full-blown possession, and it's so rare. It's so very rare. We do home deliverances. We do not do personal deliverances, right, or personal exorcisms.
Right. And another thing that I contacted, that we help these people out when we speak, is that I tell them, if you're trying to get responses to make sure it's demonic, don't provoke it. Don't give it any energy. Just don't.
Exactly. You don't want to establish a means of a line of communication. It's kind of like, right, don't feed the dragon.
Right, exactly. Stop poking the bear with the stick.
Yes, and that's one of the problems that I have, especially with younger clients who get these things because they've watched a program or something where it looks like it's cool and let's just see what we can find. And then they find a lot more than they bargained for. And they take it home with them because it's attached to them. And when stuff starts happening at the house, they're wigging out. It's frightening.
Yeah, it is. And with that, we are going to take our next commercial break. You are listening to Paraversal Universe Radio, and we will be right back.